Acura is making their biggest strategic bet in years, and it all comes down to this, the ADX. The luxury market has shifted toward younger buyers who want genuine value, intuitive tech, and authentic driving experiences. This isn't just another compact SUV, it's Acura's master plan to prove they understand what modern luxury actually means. And the success of this strategy could define Acura for the next decade. And after a week with this thing, I have some thoughts. What's it like? Buckle up, my friends. Let's go for a drive. I'm your host, Brian Makse, racer, lover of driving fast, fun things. And on this channel, you get reviews for drivers from drivers. Now, the compact luxury crossover segment is absolutely brutal right now. You got BMW and Audi pushing into the stratosphere. Genesis has arrived pretty hard. And then you've got mainstream brands pushing up market. And then you've got this ADX, which has one very specific mission, and that's to deliver a luxury experience in this compact luxury crossover segment without the arrogance of some luxury brands, as well as the stratospheric pricing of some of those brands. And before we get into what this is like to drive, let's have a look at it in a little more depth. This is an all-new product for Acura, and it's a very important one for the brand, that's for sure. But for those who have been playing along, they know that this ADX shares its architecture with a lot of Acura and Honda products, but the good thing is that those Acura and Honda products are good driving cars. Under the hood is a 1.5-liter four-cylinder with the turbo, makes 190 horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 179 pounds of torque from 1,700 to 5,000 RPM. This is a CVT, and it's a traditional one. It's not the one that's in the new Civic Hybrid. This is all-wheel drive with an intelligent control system and up to 50% rear torque split with proactive, not reactive torque distribution. Steering's electrically assisted, suspension's based around McPherson struts at the front, multi-link at the rear. These are conventional dampers, not the adaptive type. Four-wheel disc brakes, of course. This is an Advance, so it does have 19-inch wheels. Curb weight is 3,611 pounds. Static weight distribution is 57% front, 43% rear, but on this channel we know it's not static weight distribution that counts, it's how you use it. This being the top trim, there's a lot of good stuff going on. A 15-speaker Bang Olufsen sound system. This has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with wireless charging. Of course, Google is built into the infotainment system and their comprehensive active and passive safety systems. And fun fact, this is the first Acura that starts with the letter A, completing their naming strategy one vowel at a time. Did you know that 80% of you are not subscribed? Yes, it's true. 80% of you are not subscribed. I checked the data. So if you like the content on this channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button, make sure you like this, and if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Now back to your regularly scheduled episode. Here behind the wheel, this is all very familiar if you're familiar with the Integra. The steering wheel very much the same, the climate controls very much the same, the dashboard design kind of similar as well. Even with that familiarity, the fundamentals are right. The seat is excellent, seating position perfect. I'm positioned perfectly here for the steering wheel. My interface to the wheel and the pedals is spot on. Lots of adjustment in the seat as well as the steering column, and I've just got a perfect seating position here. The steering wheel is wonderfully shaped. It's for the most part round. There's sort of a flat bottom styled bit here at the bottom, but it's a great shape, great size. My hands are encouraged to be at 9 and 3, which is where they should be. And then I'm just seated perfectly in this cabin. The seat itself is excellent, actually. It's incredibly supportive. It's comfortable over long drives at this advanced trim level. It's heated and cooled as well, but really appreciate the seat for its comfort and support. Basic ergonomics are all modern Acura and Honda, which means for the climate controls, you actually have buttons and dials, which is amazing. Here on the steering wheel, we have secondary controls for the audio system, as well as the adaptive cruise control. I've got a love-hate relationship with the shifter. I love it because it's not the push button style that some Acura and Honda models use, but It's a little bit odd given that it is 2025 and this acts like a mechanical shifter, even though we know it's electronic, which precludes you from stopping and simply switching off your ADX and having it automatically switch to park. You've got to do that yourself here. Visibility is excellent in all directions. I've got zero complaints here. I can see in every direction. The outboard mirrors are large. You can see everything, adjust those properly, and your rear view mirror and blind spots aren't real. In terms of spaciousness, well, there's lots of room here for you and your passenger in this front row. In the second row, there's actually a generous amount of room. I'm very comfortable back there. And with this seat in my seating position, I've got tons of room in that second row. So really appreciate that. Lots of room under the hatch as well. But then when you're here, there's some strange things going on. The wireless charger is fine. It's here and out of the way. And then you've got a couple of cup holders here. And then another one here, which is just strange. I guess 2 passengers need 3 drinks at the same time. Plus, there are bottle holders in the doors as well. So they've got you covered when it comes to beverages. In the armrest, there's a ton of storage in here as well. And I don't think there's any lack of space inside this ADX. A word about this infotainment system, and I think this is the sort of thing that happens when engineers and designers actually talk to one another. Sure, the 9-inch screen pops out of the dash like it does in the Integra, but it's positioned perfectly, easy to reach. Google built-in actually works seamlessly. Wireless CarPlay connects instantly, and the whole system responds like it's actually connected to the internet instead of running on a potato. And this 10-inch digital instrument cluster is absolutely fantastic. It's configurable to a certain degree, and it's visible in all kinds of lighting. Plus, it gives you basically all the information you could ever need. When I first got behind the wheel of this ADX, I was struck at how nicely designed this interior is. The materials actually feel premium, not like textured plastic pieces pretending to be something they're not. The leather is genuine, the stitching is precise, and the trim pieces fit together with Japanese precision. Even the hard plastics and less visible areas have a quality feel and sound. No hollow, cheap rattles when you tap them. And all these materials make the ADX feel legitimate instead of just aspirational. And overall, here's what separates this ADX from much of the competition. I think they actually thought about how humans interact with their vehicles. Seating position spot on. The seat is highly adjustable, very comfortable, and doesn't feel like a medieval torture device. The steering wheel is the right shape, size, thickness. It's just perfect, and all the controls are exactly where you need them. It's like they actually studied human anatomy instead of just copying what everybody else was doing. And again, Honda and Acura know how to build cars for drivers, and this seating position is perfectly, and you can actually see the 4 corners of this ADX. Revolutionary concept, I know. And fun fact, this infotainment system actually has a volume knob, and I don't think it's Acura admitting defeat. It's actually admitting intelligence, because that's exactly what people want. Now, in terms of acceleration, this is decidedly not a rocket ship. Apparently 0 to 60 is around 8.7 seconds, and that might be even a little slow for the segment, but that's really not what this ADX is all about. We're going to get into its virtues shortly, but 0 to 60 in 8.7, well, you got to be prepared to work for it. Still, it doesn't struggle to get up to highway speed, and there's torque exactly where you need it. It makes peak torque all through the middle of the rev range. And top speed might be somewhere near 120 miles an hour, which is definitely more than fast enough, but I will say that the chassis can definitely handle that speed, and we'll discuss the chassis shortly. As for the engine, I dig the way it works. It's a traditional Honda. It is turbocharged, so it's got a little bit of a different character to it, but I really appreciate how it works, and I think it's a case of Honda actually trying to make this engine interesting. Boost builds progressively rather than hitting like a caffeinated freight train, which actually makes daily driving smooth, but the peak power and torque numbers limit the excitement factor. The thing is, peak torque arrives at 1700 RPM and stays flat until 5000 RPM, giving you a broad, usable torque curve that works perfectly in the real world. It's worth mentioning that VTEC is working on the exhaust side only, and the overall character is mature, refined, and maybe as exciting as a balanced investment portfolio. Now let's address the elephant in the powertrain, which is the CVT. And Yes, it's a CVT, but it actually works better than most CVTs. It does give you those artificial gear changes, so you get some semblance of traditional transmission behavior without much of that rubber band effect that makes most CVTs feel like driving through molasses. The paddle shifters actually do something useful, holding predetermined ratios for engine braking or keeping the engine in the power band through corners. It actually does work. Now, it's not going to fool anyone into thinking this is a dual clutch, but it's competent enough that you actually stop noticing it's there, which is probably the best compliment you can give a traditional CVT, even though from time to time it still behaves like a traditional CVT. Now, the all-wheel drive sounds interesting, and even though I didn't get a chance to drive this in any low grip conditions, the promise of it proactively distributing torque to that rear axle, and up to 50% of available torque can go to that rear axle, is definitely interesting, and probably in wintry conditions would give this a little bit more of a sporting character. I probably should try this in the winter. The thing is, unlike typical reactive systems that wait until you're actually sliding, this system anticipates traction based on throttle position, steering angle, and road surface conditions. It's also integrated with the stability control, which means it can selectively brake individual wheels while managing torque distribution. And that gives drivers a level of control they'll probably not fully exploit, though I would have fun with this system in the winter. And that's the thing. If you live in a region where there does get some snow in the ground, then you'll appreciate the confidence that this all-wheel drive system gives you. I took a racer friend of mine for a spin in this ADX, noticed the shift paddles and showed him how they worked, and then the simulated gear changes. And what he said about the CVT is that it's like a vegetarian burger desperately trying to taste like meat. The dynamic characteristics of this ADX are definitely the best part of it. It didn't take long for me to figure out that this is probably the best handling crossover in this segment. Steering is excellent, brakes are excellent, and outright handling, top notch. Not only is it great in the corners, but it's also very compliant. It delivers a very comfortable ride. It's not harsh by any means, but this thing corners remarkably flat, and I'm shocked at how well tuned this is, especially given that we've got conventional dampers and not adaptive dampers in this ADX. In an era when most electrically assisted steering systems feel like a wireless gaming controller that's running low on batteries, this is completely the opposite. A lot of the time you can actually feel changes in the road surface through the wheel, and the steering loads up progressively in corners rather than just getting artificially heavy. On-center feel is strong, and it's precise enough to carve a perfect line in the corners. And there's just enough feedback from the steering and tremendous feedback from the chassis to let you know when you're approaching the limits of grip. And don't get me wrong, it's not Integra Type S communicative, but it is honest and informative in a way that's pretty much absent from the segment. And speaking of the Integra, yes, this does ride on the same fundamental platform, but I think Acura's dynamics engineers really did their homework with this crossover. Sure, it's got a high center of gravity, but they've managed it with careful suspension tuning with the spring rates, the dampers, and the anti-roll bars. So what you've got here is a suspension setup that delivers excellent body and wheel control without punishing you when it comes to ride quality. As I mentioned, braking is excellent, and I shouldn't be surprised. I don't remember ever driving a Acura or a Honda, for that matter, that delivered poor brake feel. These brakes are excellent. I've got incredible precise control through the brake pedal. Feel is excellent, and I've got all the confidence in the world to get this ADX slowed down anytime I need. And body roll, it's surprisingly limited. It's actually not embarrassing in any way, kind of like doing karaoke after one drink instead of 5. And I'll say that ride quality kind of splits the difference between European harsh and American wallowy, and strikes a great balance with what is just Japanese sensible. How do you spec yours? Well, it's fairly straightforward. What you are looking at is a 2025 Acura ADX Advance A-Spec with all-wheel drive. Base price for a front-wheel drive ADX in the US is $35,000. This A-Spec Advance with all-wheel drive is $44,000, and add $600 for this white pearl paint. Base price in Canada for an ADX all-wheel drive is $44,980. This A-Spec Advance is $51,000. $480 and add $900 for this white pearl paint. And of course, premium colors are extra because regular colors are for people who lack imagination. Now, with this ADX, when we look at the competitive set, that's where this becomes compelling. A similarly equipped BMW X1 or Audi Q3 easily breaks into the mid-50s, and they don't include nearly as much standard equipment. The Genesis GV70 is significantly more expensive, even if it offers more luxury and performance. The ADX occupies that sweet spot between genuinely premium and actually affordable. You're paying luxury car money, but getting much more content than most luxury brands actually deliver. And it seems like it's perfectly positioned for buyers who want premium features without premium arrogance or premium payment shock. And before you get all excited about ordering your Acura ADX, we had a look into what real-world owners are saying about their real-world experiences with their ADXs, and it's much more insightful than I could ever glean in a week-long test. First, this A-Spec Advance is a bizarre cost-cutting measure. The passenger seat lacks height adjustment. It's got four-way power, everything else, but if you're shorter than average, you're stuck with whatever Acura thinks is the right height. Second, owners say those 19-inch Continental Pro Contact TX tires aren't just any all-seasons. They're specifically notorious for a little extra noise on the highway. Here's something useful, though. The individual drive mode is much more sophisticated than anyone explains. You can mix and match settings, so sport engine response with comfort sound enhancement, which eliminates most of the CVT drone without sacrificing throttle response. And speaking of the throttle, this thing asks for premium fuel, unlike its Honda siblings with the same basic engine, because Honda tuned it differently. It will still run on regular fuel, but if you want maximum performance, you have to go with premium. The ADX gets a lot of things right, but these insights from actual owners definitely separates informed buyers from surprised owners. My verdict, well, I'd normally start this segment with fuel consumption, but because my driving this week has been completely all over the map, I haven't been able to track it in any way that it would make sense for us in this context. So I'd love to hear from real-world ADX owners and see what you're getting in terms of fuel consumption in real-world driving. So drop a comment below, much appreciated. As for my verdict in this ADX, well, I think they've nailed it. It delivers exactly what modern buyers want: genuine build quality, tech that actually works, engaging driving dynamics without pretense. The turbo engine has real character. On the other hand, the CVT, well, it's a CVT, but the chassis strikes impressive balance and the interior demonstrates legit attention to detail. Most importantly, this feels like authentic Acura DNA rather than chasing trends. The sound system is excellent. The all-wheel drive delivers 12-season capability, and the value proposition is compelling. Acura isn't just hoping to attract younger buyers. They've actually built something that delivers on what that demographic is actually looking for. And I think this ADX delivers exactly what Acura's target demographic is looking for: a luxury compact crossover that doesn't require financial gymnastics or mechanical martyrdom. Young professionals get genuine luxury features, practical space, and engaging dynamics without the badge snobbery or anxiety of European ownership. The tech integration is seamless, the build quality feels legit, and the driving experience has enough character to be interesting without being intimidating. From my perspective, it seems like Acura fully understood this assignment and executed as if they actually talked to customers instead of aggregating focus group data. Sure, this ADX isn't perfect, and I'd like a little bit more engagement from this CVT, but this thing succeeds in ways that I didn't expect, which proves that automotive cynicism isn't always justified. And I think this little ADX is exactly what happens when Acura remembers what they're good at. Thanks for hanging out with me today and having a look at this 2025 Acura ADX. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, you're not new, you know what to do. Smash the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, like this, and as always, sharing is caring, so please share this with your friends, especially on Reddit, because on Reddit, they really need to see reviews for drivers from drivers. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please hit up our merch store. Links here, links below. Lots of great stuff for driving enthusiasts like us, including our very popular line of Save the Manuals merch. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. And remember, cars don't understeer by themselves, not even Acura ADXs. And if you've hung around this long, speaking of manuals, well, have a look at the last time we drove the Acura Integra Type S with a manual. I think you might enjoy that episode. Thanks again for watching. See you again next time.